Today I'm joined by Stacey Ellertson. Stacey's one of our seasoned therapists. I invited Stacey to join me today because I thought you might find his perspective on anxiety disorder, therapy, and recovery interesting. Now, Stacey has seen anxiety disorder not only from both sides, as a sufferer and as someone who successfully overcome anxiety disorder, but also from the vantage point of a therapist who helps others overcome anxiety disorder. Now, since the goal of AnxietyCenter.com is to help others, we thought you might find his comments helpful. So, hello, Stacey. How are you?
I'm good. I'm hot, but I'm good.
You warm over there, too?
Yeah, it's a warm day.
Yeah, same here. It's a hot one, which is nice. I'll take this over than what we had, that's for sure.
Yeah, I'm not complaining.
So thank you for joining me today, Stacey. As I mentioned when I set up our call, I have some questions for you. Are you ready to answer them?
Sure.
Okay, well, that's great. Well, my first question is, you've been a therapist for a while now. When did you actually start being a therapist?
Well, I began as a pastoral counselor in 97, but I actually began practicing as a full-time therapist in 2003. So all in all, it's been about 9 years altogether.
Okay, sure. What prompted you to become a therapist?
Well, you know what? I grew up feeling pretty isolated and lonely, not knowing that I was a very anxious and stressed out child. And at my core, I sort of knew that there was a part of me that desired to make a positive difference in the world. And in my mind, my mission is to help people realize that full potential. And I just believe that too often people think and feel like there's something external that's limiting them, but in reality, it's what they're saying to themselves that's holding them back. So my job as a therapist is essentially to help people realize that their full potential is only a moment away.
Mm-hmm. So, can you tell us a little bit about your personal struggles with anxiety and depression?
Yeah, certainly. I think anxiety began for me practically from the time I was born. For the first year of my life, I spent that in the hospital. I was raised also by a well-intentioned yet extremely anxious mom. When I was a child, I was afraid of my own shadow. I tried really hard not to let anyone see this, including my parents, but inside I was always feeling pretty terrified. I was afraid to go to school, say hi to girls, go to dances, confront the bullies, and even at times to go home. I was always expecting the worst to happen, and unfortunately sometimes it actually seemed like it did. I tried to cope through sports and work as I got older, and I fueled myself with caffeine and cigarettes, but my lifestyle was terrible. I'd stay up all hours of the night, sleep most of the day, and my dream world seemed to be more real than reality because it was the only time that I felt like I could actually escape from everything, and the only time that I actually felt like I had control, because I actually could dream in color and sound, and I could manipulate my dreams, which was kind of fun. But eventually even the sleeping wasn't enough, and I became suicidal. I remember quite vividly the butcher knife that I held to my heart when I was about 20. I had at that point felt like the anxiety was stalking me, and ironically the knife I was holding to my chest had the word hunter emblazoned in silver on its handle. And today I still have no idea where that knife disappeared to, but thankfully I never actually attempted suicide, but I was serious about ending my life. But it wasn't until I was in seminary that I had my very first panic attack. I was just sitting on the couch doing research for a paper when I began to experience extremely frightening symptoms. My heart rate increased, my breathing became fast and shallow, I felt numb all over, I felt pressure on my chest and head. But most disturbing of all for me was this weird coppery taste that my mouth exuded, and as it became instantly dry. Immediately I thought, I'm having a heart attack, and so I did. I immediately laid down on the floor and did what every good male does. I tried to stop it, and I tried to fix it, which only made it worse. And I started thinking to myself, I'm going to die right here on my living room floor in front of my 4-year-old daughter. And these attacks lasted for almost daily for about a year. Was really disturbing, to say the least, but I became desperate. So I spent $400 for a highly advertised program being offered at the time to treat anxiety and depression. And with that program and the peer counseling I was receiving through my program while I was at seminary, I was able to determine how to overcome this condition and have been now anxiety disorder free for 10 years now.
Oh, nice. So based on your experiences with anxiety and depression, do you think a lot of people can overcome it on their own with the use of self-help information alone?
Well, I think that people can learn a lot about anxiety and about stress and depression through self-help information, but the answer is no. Anxiety and stress disorders require one-on-one therapy. I think that it's really important that we have someone outside of ourselves to help us recognize those underlying issues that contribute to our unhealthy lifestyles and false beliefs. There are many people out there, I believe, who truly don't understand what anxiety and stress disorder is. They have the head knowledge you can read in a book, but they don't have the practical experience that the coaches at the Anxiety Center have. And I believe really the only way to recover from this disorder is to work with a professional therapist who actually specializes in this, not only because they have the head knowledge, but they also have recovered completely themselves and therefore have the practical experience to connect to it, so that people aren't talking to an expert, but rather someone who specializes because they know how to counsel, but they also know how to overcome this condition.
Right, right. You know, it's interesting to say that, because when we first started helping people with anxiety, I was committed to, providing as much self-help information as I could, thinking that that would be sufficient. Even though I didn't overcome it on my own either with self-help information. And as we did that, we just saw people coming back and back and back and struggle with the same areas. And for me, it was a bit perplexing, because they seemed to be struggling over and over again, not getting much better. Yeah, they would gain a little bit of distance, but that would be about it. And then when I look back on my own recovery, it was the help of a therapist who actually helped put some of the pieces together for me, because I couldn't see them either. And as the Anxiety Center grew, we recognized that how important therapy was, and it really is an important piece. So I fully agree with you. We can make some progress, but really to make complete progress, it really requires the help of someone else. Yeah.
Absolutely.
You bet. So it's all right. So based on that, so how does therapy help people overcome anxiety disorder? What does a therapist provide that self-help information can't provide?
Well, first of all, I think quite often people need moral support as much as they need professional direction. And anxiety recovery is not something you can just quote unquote figure out on your own. What a therapist does is basically the therapist with the Anxiety Center, they have recovered and specialize in this disorder. And because of that, they're able to provide a special kind of assistance to help clients achieve progress in a way that I believe they could never imagine possible. Time and again, as I'm sure you're well aware, Jim, we get the clients who have already been through many, many programs, and by the time they get to us, they're at their wits' end. And I really believe that the anxiety therapists, coaches, counselors, whatever we want to call ourselves here at the Anxiety Center, we help clients identify those underlying issues and root causes for their unhealthy lifestyle that are stimulating that disorder. And quite often, I believe that clients need a professional to help them learn how to contain those emotions and feelings that they maybe didn't learn how to do as children. It's a skill that they cannot grasp nor learn totally on their own, only with the professional guidance and support of a specialist who understands anxiety stress disorder.
Yeah, because even today there was a question posted on the discussion board that says, I understand it, but how can I accept it? How can I move forward in spite of how I feel? And you're right, there isn't, a 1 or 2 or 3 line or 3 paragraph summation that we can provide that's going to give them that skill set. It's acquired through practice and help and all those things, isn't it?
Absolutely. And, we can offer all kinds of advice and direction and support, but the ultimate reality is that each client has to buy into what they're learning. There has to be a buy-in on their part, and until they buy into it, it's just information. So it's through coaching and through therapy that hopefully we can work with the clients and help them understand that there is a legitimate way to recover from this. This is not just all talk, that this is a reality, because we ourselves have fully recovered from anxiety. It doesn't happen overnight for any one of us, and I think that's an important point to make. It takes constant effort, practice, and due diligence. You cannot just go through this and expect a quick fix.
Yeah, you bet. That's what I was just going to say, is so many people are looking for, I have anxiety, how do I overcome it? Expecting a short answer that's going to solve everything. But as you and I both know, that just doesn't exist. And anybody who offers that, I don't think is being realistic.
Absolutely not. No.